Disclaimer, this is audio horror fiction. If darkness or the creatures it holds scares you, leave now. Still listening? Good, then let's begin. If I could wish death on anyone, it would be my sister. I can't think of anyone who deserves it more. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Fuck you if you think that makes me the bad guy. Maddie was 8 years old when I was born. By all accounts, she was the perfect child, and my parents wanted to try to go 2 for 2. Instead, they got such a screw up that they never risked making another kid. Whereas Maddie was calm and quiet and slept through the night from birth, I howled day and night and nothing could ever shut me up. Maddie was healthy in hell, and I was premature and sickly, causing my parents no end of anxiety. Maddie was well behaved, and I was a holy terror, running wild with the devil in my bones. Maddie made the honor roll, and I consistently failed anything I bothered to try at. Maddie was getting her PhD while I was flunking out of community college. I don't blame my parents for being disappointed in me. I'm disappointed in me. But being such a loser meant that I could spot fellow fuck-ups with pinpoint accuracy, while everyone else was blindsided by trying to see the best in them. Such was the case with Maddie's boyfriend, Shithead Mark. She brought him around Mom and Dad's house every school break. Shithead Mark did not attend university with my sister. Shithead Mark didn't do much of anything, apparently. He told my folks that he developed video games, but I never saw any evidence of this, and the guy couldn't tell his ass from his foot when it came to computers. He and Maddie moved in together so she could support him until he made it big. Yeah, right. Maddie came home less and less. Shithead Mark always seemed to need her car for something or another, and it never seemed to be the right time. She stopped putting photos on Facebook of her and her study buddies at the campus bar. She sounded strange when she called, and Mark always wanted her to get off the phone and take care of something in the background. It was when she dropped her strict vegetarian diet that I began to worry. I scraped together enough spare change for bus fare and made plans to surprise her with a visit. The whole bus ride, all I could think about was Grandma and Grandpa's farm, where Maddie had taken the vow of vegetarianism at 13 after Grandma had tried to teach her how to properly slaughter chickens. I had laughed at her over my drumstick that night, but Maddie was not easily swayed once she had made a decision. Maddie's car was gone from the numbered parking space of their apartment complex, so I knew Shithead Mark was out somewhere. I'm not sure what I would have done if he had been there. The downstairs door was always busted, so I didn't need to buzz her unit number to get upstairs. I rapped on the dull wood and waited. After a minute I knocked again, louder this time. It was Maddie who opened the door alright, but I needed a moment to recognize her. Her trademark vibrant lipstick was gone, revealing chapped, downturned lips. Her hair had gone from bubblegum blonde to a dull, mousy brown, closer to how it had been when she was little. Instead of the fun, hipsterish, retro pinup outfit she loved, she wore a cotton shirt with a cardigan. A cardigan, mind you. She looked like a Mormon missionary. You should have called. I couldn't think of anything to say to that. Her voice was as flat and dead as her eyes. How did you get here, Brian? When I told her I took the bus, she told me to hang on, and then closed the door in my face. I had half a mind to kick her door in and give her a good shake. What the hell was her problem? When she came back, she had a handful of crumpled small bills, and she held them out the way you'd hold out your hand for a dog to sniff. Get out of here before Mark comes back. If he sees you, he'll kick your ass. Goodbye, Brian. And that was the extent of the visit. She had given me almost enough for the fare back home. I couldn't understand what had happened to my annoyingly cheerful extrovert of a sister. What had hollowed her out and left nothing but that shell of a girl behind? Maybe university was draining her like everyone in higher education was always complaining about. But she had always loved school. She loved everything. That's who Maddie was. My parents hadn't even noticed I was gone. I was still living in my childhood bedroom, the one with the wonky window that whistled when there was wind and led out to the flattish stretch of roof over the garage, where I would sometimes sneak out and look up at the stars, though I was using it as a convenient smoking spot more these days. I sat out there and smoked and thought about what the rest of my life would look like. It wasn't a pretty picture. I was still out there when my parents got the call. God, I still hate myself for that. Hiding from the world like the spineless little twerp I am. They were all alone when they got the news. Their golden child, their one hope, had died. Slipped, getting out of the shower and hit her head on the sink. What a stupid fucking way to die. The police wanted to rule out foul play, so I had to fess up about my visit. Shithead Mark was the one to find her. He had been getting high with his buddies when it happened, which was less than an hour after I had left. If you asked me how I handled the grief, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. I didn't handle much of anything. I couldn't even cry until the day after her funeral. I woke up, and the understanding that she was gone and would never be in my life again crushed me. I cried for the future she should have had. It was supposed to be so bright, and now it would never happen. I'd never be able to talk to her again, except that among the group of losers to which I belonged there was a girl who had never grown out of her 8th grade goth phase, and claimed to belong to a Wiccan coven. But her beliefs were as mismatched as anything. If belief was buildings, Anne had a skyscraper. She believed in Bigfoot, and aliens, and crystals, and naturopathy, and pyramids. Anne believed. When she had first asked me if I'd like to say goodbye to my sister for real, I nearly decked her. Graveside confessions were one thing, but Ouija boards were a different animal altogether. It didn't turn out to be a Ouija thing though. While my parents were out, I texted Anne the all clear. She showed up with a backpack of assorted weird. I'm not going to list the ritual she used here because apparently there's a sub dedicated to trying out rituals and reporting the results, which, first of all, what the actual fuck? You people are nuts. There was blood painted on the floor though. Anne insisted it was pig's blood, but I had my suspicions. She could see I was having second thoughts, so she lit up a joint to calm us down. My parents would kill me if they smelled the smoke when they got back, but I was well beyond caring. I wanted to talk to my big sister again, or at the very least, pretend. I wanted to tell her I was sorry. Nothing happened. Anne chanted and set fire to a pile of herbs, then drew a knife and gestured for my hand. It has to be virgin blood, she said. I could have giggled. That was the pot working. You're out of luck then. Anne rolled her eyes. Blood that has never been used for a ritual, dumbass. The blade slicing my palm was the last step I can remember. Maybe it was the joint. Maybe Anne had laced it with something. Maybe it was the other herbs. Maybe it was pure exhaustion. Doesn't matter though. I woke up at 2 in the afternoon in my own bed with the mother of all hangovers and no recollection of anything past that. The cut was still there, so I hadn't imagined that part. After my shower, I made sure to smother it in polysporin and wrap it up with gauze. The last thing I needed was an infection from Anne's nasty knife. Speaking of Anne, I texted her to see if she could fill in the gaps of my memory, but I kept getting an error message. At the time, I didn't think anything of it because Anne was forever having her phone service canceled for non-payment. I figured I'd see her later if I even wanted to see her at all. I didn't bother going downstairs. If my parents wanted to lecture me for the mess, they were free to drag themselves up to my room. I spent the rest of the day dicking around on the internet and trying not to think about anything at all. It worked pretty well because that's what the internet's designed for. Sometime after dark, I felt the need for a smoke. They were only regular cigarettes, but I didn't need to give my parents yet another reason to be disappointed in me, so I crawled out on the roof. Maddie used to sit out there with me. She'd point out constellations and natter on about their history and mythology and the importance they held to ancient civilizations and sailors. And I'd listen in silence and awe of my big sister. Before I knew it, I was crying again. While my eyes were welded shut with tears, someone tugged the cigarette out of my fingers. I didn't care about looking like an idiot in front of Anne, so I went on, palms to my eyes, bawling like a little kid. Anne put her arm around me and I flinched. She wasn't wearing a jacket either, and her skin was freezing. I curled up against her, and she ran her fingers through my hair like Maddie used to do to calm me down after a bad temper tantrum. I kept my eyes screwed shut and let myself pretend it was her. When my tears turned to hiccups, I pulled away and wiped them on my sleeve. It was her. Maddie looked just the same as she had in her casket, still wearing the clothes she had been buried in. I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't react. She smiled, but it didn't stop her from looking sad. It was Mark, wasn't it? I finally found my voice. She sighed. Yeah, I should have known better. He was. She chewed her bottom lip. He was so mad about the money. He wanted to know what I did with it, but I thought that he'd be angrier if he knew I gave it to you. I should have seen what he was doing earlier, but you've always been the perceptive one. He took everything away from me and I was happy to give it. Or at least, I thought I was happy. I'm sorry, Brian. You were right about him. What he was doing? Don't be sorry. You deserve at least one fuck up. I'll lend you one of mine. Anne's going to ship bricks, by the way. She's the one who, summoned you, I guess. She gave me that same sad smile. Make that 2 fuck ups. Whatever brought me here, it didn't just work on me. Something hitched a ride. I can feel it. She laid a hand against her stomach. I can feel it right here. It's hungry, Brian. It's so hungry. I think I can hold on to it, rein it in. But if I'm not around to stop it, it's going to feed again. Feed? This was too surreal. Too impossible. Like Anne. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I have to go now. Promise me you'll look after yourself. Keep yourself safe, Brian. Because I can't. No one's going to be safe around me. She leaned over and pressed a kiss to my forehead. I let my eyes close again. I must have been hallucinating, but it felt too real. Anne's phone was still down in the morning. Yes, I woke up in the AM for the first time in months. I decided to jog over to her house. What Maddie had said about feeding sat heavy in my gut. We had done something wrong, but I wasn't sure what. Anne lived in a duplex, 1203, I was sure of it. I'd been there hundreds of times. Anne didn't answer the door though. It was an old Korean guy who had never heard of her. I knocked on the unit on the other side to be sure, but they claimed they didn't know of any Anne. I pushed down the panic threatening to choke me and called the college we both attended to ask them for the emergency contacts of Anne Sutherland. After an agonizingly long wait, they informed me they had no student by that name, and with little prying admitted they had never had a student of that name. I ran home. I hadn't run in ages, but I ran all 20 blocks. Lungs heaving in what might have been hyperventilation, I logged onto Facebook and looked up Anne's profile. Hundreds of Annes, but none of them were her. It was like she had dropped off the face of the earth. I went around my room, ripping Polaroids off the walls. I hadn't imagined her. I had dozens of pictures with her, except that now, I didn't. I slumped against my bed in defeat. Anne was gone, and I was the only one who knew she had ever existed. Was that what Maddie had meant by feeding? God. Oh God, what the fuck had we done? I ate dinner in silence with my parents. They didn't ask me how I was or what I had done that day. They never were that interested in my life. I wondered how they would react to the information that I'd raised their daughter from the dead as some foobar zombie. Probably they'd ignore it like they had done their best to ignore my entire dysfunctional existence. When I was shut in my room again, I called the police. The person who answered the phone shuffled me back and forth until I reached the incredibly confused leading investigator on my sister's case. Officially, it was still open. I wanted them to take a closer look at shithead Mark. I wanted that bastard to get nailed to the wall. I was put on hold. When the guy came back on the line, he told me that Mark was not a person of interest. Actually, he told me he had never heard of a Mark being involved. My stomach dropped to my feet, and I apologized for taking his time. So, she had gotten Mark too. I couldn't resent her for it. If he had still been around, I might have killed him myself. I pondered the reasoning behind going after Anne and figured it must have been a part of raising Maddie in the first place. I shuddered at the understanding that the reason I still existed at all was because of the love my sister has for me. She's out there. I'm not going to go looking for her. She has enough problems. What with some kind of parasite demon that eats people's very existence. She doesn't need her screw-up of a little brother tagging along. If she wants me, she knows where to find me. I'm not even sure I'd run if it came to that, but you should know. I should have let her soul sleep. Thanks to me, she's forced to walk the earth, burdened by the monster clinging to a body that should be resting in a now empty grave. If I could wish death on anyone, it would be my sister. I can't think of anyone who deserves it more. Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to help feed the dark machine. Share with other fans of horror, and if you have a story that you would like for me to read, check the description below for details.